Thanks, Laura. So my name is Edward James. I'm the Director of Content and Analysis at Mead Projects. Mead Projects is one of the intelligence partners for the Big Five. And this session is going to provide an overview of the key findings from the Big Five Global Leaders Summit, Big Five Global Construction Leaders Summit, which took place a couple of months ago on the 12th of September during the Big Five at the Dubai World Trade Center. The summit convened construction leaders and some senior government representatives to discuss support for future industry growth, collaboration and partnerships, the workforce of the future, the impact of smart construction, and advancing sustainable development. And it was indeed a really interesting experience, a great event, and a really interesting experience. We had some really interesting thought leaders and key stakeholders from both the UAE and around the region. The summit included keynotes and panel discussions from leaders in the industry, including His Excellency Sami Al-Khamsi, who's Director General of the Department of Economic Development, which is part of the government of Dubai. Ian Williamson, Chief Projects Delivery Officer at the Red Sea Development Company, which is, of course, one of the key giga projects in Saudi Arabia. And then we also heard from regional chief executives from the contracting consultancy communities, such as ALEC, B6, Atkins, AECOM, WSP, ASGC, and China State Engineering Corporation. And here today to take your questions and to give an overview of the key findings from the Big Five Global Construction Leadership Summit is Dr. Anas Batal, who's the Director of the Centre of Excellence in Smart Construction at Heriot-Watt University, which is also an industry partner for the Big Five. And Dr. Anas and his team prepared a white paper on the summit, reviewing the key findings that emerged from the discussions and panels on that day. Dr. Anas, welcome. Thank you very much for your participation today. I've got a few questions for you, but it's also an opportunity for the audience to submit your questions. So later during this session, we'll have some. Please feel free to put your questions into the chat box, and we'll take a chance to answer them in a bit. But first off, Dr. Anas, I just wanted to ask you about the future growth in the industry. So obviously we've had a couple of tough years. How is the industry rising to the pandemic and the post-pandemic challenge?
Thank you, Ali. Well, I'll start off by saying the construction sector is a vital and resilient sector. And what I mean by that is the construction sector always played a pivotal role in the world's economy development, and this region is no different. We saw this during the recessions, and we saw this in recent years in 2014 when the oil prices dropped. And by that, we saw a lot of push from the construction industry with new developments, the announcements of new projects. At that time, there was the announcement of the Expo 2020. And now, during COVID, there was no difference. We saw a lot of announcements from a number of government entities, whether it's the UAE or in the region, as you mentioned, in Saudi Arabia as well. There was a lot of announcements. And the main aspects towards that is to push the economy. And now that we see that, now that things are opening up a little bit after the pandemic, or we're still during the pandemic till now, things are picking up economically and mainly within the construction industry.
Thank you. And just following on from that, what were the main opportunities arising from government investment in green initiatives and sustainable development as a whole? I know it's certainly a topic that's on everyone's lips right now. But from your experience from the event, what did you hear?
There was a lot of during the events, there was a lot of discussions about the different announcements, different initiatives out there, and sustainability was definitely one of the main ones for many obvious reasons. But there has been a lot of push towards sustainable developments, and we see these initiatives and developments have really changed the bar when it comes to sustainability, especially within the construction industry, because it is contributing quite a lot to carbon emissions and etc., whether it's the way we design, build, or even operate our buildings, assets. And that contributes quite a lot to what cities have in general and what the whole world has in terms of carbon emissions. These initiatives that we've seen across the region, as I said, during the pandemic or even before that, have really led to first of all, raising awareness of sustainability and climate change in general, because that's something that hasn't been really raised in this region to start off with, and especially in the construction industry. It's also led to increased energy efficiency and environmental friendly building projects, and we see these announcements, whether it's in Saudi Arabia through the Red Sea development that was discussed during the event, but also we see this quite a lot. And we saw it actually during the Expo itself, the design and developments and the operation plan for the Expo 2020 and the district itself. And now we see a lot of developers out there having to reimagine the vision of the space that they have and make sustainability one of their top priorities when building homes or offices or malls, etc.
Yeah, that's obviously that's good to hear, and I'm sure it's something we'll hear a lot more of going forward. And I wanted to touch on the issue of collaboration. I know it's something that all stakeholders talk about quite frequently, often in the context of there not being enough collaboration. So how can the industry and public sector improve collaboration overall and work together to deliver the national vision?
Well, collaboration has always been an issue within the construction industry, and during the events there was a lot of talk about collaboration. In fact, it was almost the main theme of the events. And the reason behind this is because we do suffer within the construction industry, and that's everyone knows about this. It's quite an obvious issue that we have within the construction industry. And when I say collaboration, I'm not just talking about collaboration within teams, but within the projects or the different stakeholders within the project, but also between the different departments and etc. And what I mean by that, there's definitely a certain issue when it comes to collaboration and coordination of project delivery, but also we see the lack of PPP, which is something that was really highlighted and discussed during the events. PPP, for those that don't know, it's public-private partnerships. We see this quite popular around the world, in the US, Europe, including the UK, and even in Far East Asia. But in this region, it's picking up quite a lot, and we see the benefit towards that. And especially now with all these giga projects happening across the region, we see there's a lot of push towards PPP platforms. The reason behind the importance of PPP is really to improve collaboration and really kind of share the risk between, and the more risk you share between the developers, the contractors, the consultants, and the suppliers, and etc., the more win-win situation that you have across the project, and a more better delivery that you have, and hopefully we'll see better time, cost, and quality within the delivery of projects.
Yes, let's keep our fingers crossed for that. Just a reminder to everyone listening in, please to submit your questions into the chat and Q&A box in order for us Dr. Anas, to take your questions after. Moving on now to the workforce. What are the barriers and opportunities around building a workforce for the future?
Building a workforce for the future is another topic that was discussed in one of the panels during the session. Now, it's not a problem that we have only in this region. We have around the world, but it is quite problematic, and especially in this region because of the situation or the way business is in the region, where there was a discussion about companies having almost short-term goals where they have to just deliver projects and then move away from one project to another. There's not a long-term goal where they have to keep on developing the workforce, etc. And there's the lack of, especially now with the changes within the construction industry, there's a lot of changes when it comes to innovations. We hear about a lot of exciting innovation, especially in this region, that's been pushed, such as digital transformation, whether it's BIM, GIS, digital twin, or even the likes of moving forward towards robotics and 3D printing, etc. And the non-digital innovations such as sustainable development, as we discussed, or decarbonization within the construction industry, or modern methods of construction such as prefabrication or modular construction. All of these require a skilled workforce, whether it's on-site or in the offices. And this is quite an issue that we have in order to make sure that we can have a workforce that can deliver these innovations. But more importantly, the UAE government is pushing for the next 50 years. So we have to be on our toes to make sure that we can know, we can almost understand what's in it in the next 50 years, or at least 10 years to start off with, and make sure that we can have the right workforce in place to not only capture the current initiatives that we have, as I mentioned, but also the future initiatives, the future innovations, or even be part of developing the next construction industry. And that's something that that was a struggle that we struggle with within the industry, and that was something that was highly discussed within the panels of the event.
Thank you. Absolutely, yes. And you mentioned, interestingly, technologies such as BIM, internet twins, robotics, drone technologies, and so on. And certainly, the introduction of more technology into construction is a hot topic right now. Why does the industry need to evolve? And what exactly is smart construction? How can it disrupt and innovate the industry?
So smart construction is looked at differently by different people across. It depends who you talk to. Some people look at it as reinventing the wheel, or some of them look at it as a new way of revenue. Some organizations look at it as enhancing the productivity and performance, or tackling sustainability, and some of them even tackling well-being issues that they have within the industry. For me, because we sit within quite outside of the delivery of projects, within the Centre for Excellence Smart Construction, we see smart construction as all of the above. It's the way or a method to achieve productivity, performance, better sustainability, and better well-being within your projects. In terms of how to achieve that, it depends what you are as an organization and where you are within the process. But ultimately, it requires you to be disruptive, as you said. And what I mean by that, it's being on your toes. It's being flexible, understanding where the benefits are, having long-term visions. And as I said, that's one of the main issues that we have in the industry, where there is a quiet focus on project by project, and the organizations struggle to look into innovations in general, or smart construction in general. Even though they might achieve smart construction or innovations on a certain project, they might find it difficult to move from one, or to replicate that from one project to another, depending on the team on that project, also depending on the client, and depending obviously on the budgets available, etc. And all of these issues were actually discussed during the event, and also the disruption and how to be disruptive was discussed. But ultimately, it's all about collaborating. If you want to be disruptive, you have to collaborate. You have to make sure that you know who your stakeholders are. You need to make sure that you have the right partnership in place. You need to make sure that you enforce towards innovating and collaborating to achieve better outcomes.
Thank you. And finally, before we move on to questions from the audience, I just have one final question, really. If you could please, Dr. Anas, just summarise the key takeaways and findings from the Big Five Global Construction Leaders Summit for everyone here today who wasn't able to maybe sit in on it at the time.
So the summit was really around leadership and collaboration, mainly. And if we would take something away from that day, it's really the discussions were describing the way we would lead the way for a bright future of construction. And there was a number of things that was discussed during that event. First of all, there was a great number of panelists that were gathered around to talk about really hot topics that we have within the industry, starting off with the future of construction industry and opportunities. And then we moved on to the sustainable development and how can we achieve sustainability and how can we work towards sustainability, whether you are a consultant, contractor, developer, or even a government entity. We moved on to also to talk about the digital transformation and innovations and how can that be achieved through a number of things, and then collaboration was really highlighted as the main aspect or the main force to achieve that. And there was a lot of other valuable discussions and panels around the topics of future skill and how can we have better workforce to achieve not the current, or to address not the current challenges, but also the future challenges, as we touched on. And also there was a lot of discussions about smart construction in general, and how can we achieve smart construction, whether through, as I mentioned, collaborating, or through being disruptive. And the main takeaway, as I said, it's that was highlighted by many, whether it's through the panel discussions or the keynotes, or even the side discussions that were happening throughout the event. And we saw this quite a lot. People are eager to collaborate. People are eager to, and this is all the way from the leadership all the way to teams. Everyone's eager to collaborate. Everyone's eager to work together to achieve the ultimate solution. Yes, we do have a competitive environment, and that's okay, and that's healthy to have. But the main aspects and the main takeaways from the event was the fact that we must collaborate to survive, but also to lead the way for a bright future of the construction industry.
Totally agree. Look, thank you so much, Dr. Anas. We're now going to turn over the questions to the audience. I know you've been waiting for this opportunity, so thank you all very much for your attention. Now back over to you, Laura, for the questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edward James, Director of Content and Analysis at Mead Projects there. Thank you so much. Once again, that was our first session of the day, which was an overview of the white paper findings from the Global Construction Leaders Summit. It was announced at the event, of course, back in September. That covered collaboration, people, future industry growth, sustainable development, and the impact of smart construction. So, Dr. Anas Battau, you're going to stay with us and answer some audience questions for us. Thank you so much. Really fascinating findings that you delivered just now. I think the first question that's just come in, we'll go straight into it, shall we? Which element of smart construction do you think will have the biggest impact on the industry in the next few years? That's our first question.
It's $1 million question to start off with. When it comes to smart construction, I guess it's if you're talking about the in terms of initiatives or different applications that could be used to enhance the construction industry, I think digitization has been one of the biggest ones, and modern methods of construction, and that's two big umbrellas, as you can tell. The modern methods of construction includes the modular construction as well as the 3D printing, which is picking up quite a lot, and that's one of the main things that was actually picked on in the conference and in the summit as well.
And then you also picked up, of course, on collaboration and how it really was one of these the main theme of the event, really. So what exactly, this is the next question that's come through, what can the public sector do to improve collaboration with the industry?
Well, first of all, there was a lot of talk about changing the mindset within the industry. Collaboration requires us to really collaborate together and apologies about the background noise. The collaboration does require us to change the mindset. And when I say changing the mindset, and this was discussed during the summit, it's really for us to think differently, not only to collaborate between the different government entities and the industry and academia, but also there was a number of discussions about how we should collaborate better within a project, how our clients or developers should collaborate better through a different mindset with the consultants and the contractors on the project, and how contractors should collaborate in a different mindset with the subcontractors and suppliers as well. And that was really touched on because that was the main thing. There was other aspects of how can we collaborate, and there was a touch on the triple helix approach, which is quite popular in Europe and US, where government, industry, and academia works together to achieve a certain issues or address certain issues. But the summit was mainly to do with changing the mindset of the way we work, changing the mindset of the way we approach each other within the project to make sure that we could collaborate in the best way possible.
And now you also spoke a lot about the workforce of the future, which is a huge issue. You were saying it's global, it's a global issue. So looking more towards the region and thinking about the UAE and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, what do you think are going to be the biggest contributors to industry growth in those markets in the near future? I mean, you also mentioned digital and non-digital innovation, the workforce of the future, as well as smart construction. So do all those elements combine into sort of the main sort of contributors moving forward?
Absolutely. I'd say that the main contributor to change, it would be the different government initiatives or the programs that we see. We saw this in the past with Expo. As I mentioned, Expo, that when it was first announced, there was a lot of changes within the way the master plan itself for the Expo or the District 2020 was developed. But there was a lot of push towards smart construction and digitization and sustainability and modular methods of construction. And these kind of programs will only help to achieve this better. So if you ask me, in this region, obviously the 2030 vision of Saudi Arabia have set some targets. And these targets, if you translate them from a construction perspective, you will understand that this is digitization, this is smart cities, this is the requirements to develop or to deliver projects faster than ever. Therefore, we need to use new methods of construction, and the list goes on. But also the likes of the COP28 that's now been announced for the UAE in 2 years, and that's going to change a lot of things as well. Mainly from the sustainability, hopefully, because sustainability is definitely one of the biggest issues that we have within the construction industry, and hopefully, and definitely we see this already, by the way, that things like the COP28 come into this region, especially the UAE. This will definitely change the mindsets that how we approach sustainability, and hopefully this will be a big part of moving forward, especially for smart construction.
Very exciting times ahead, definitely. And we've got another question here. In your opinion, how mature is the modular construction ecosystem within the Middle East?
Another good question. Now, modular construction has been approached differently, and we see a lot of projects. If you take a drive up to Qudra Lake in Dubai, you'll see a lot of homes that's being built by modular construction. You won't be able to tell it is modular construction anymore because it definitely, the technology has advanced a lot more. With that said, the supply chain, yes, it does have a lot of shortage, and this is mainly to do with the demand. I guess the more yes, there is a shortage in the supply, and there is a shortage in getting some expertise from the market. However, the more demand that we'll get, as always, the supply will grow from there. We see a lot of developers asking for modular construction from the beginning. And this is another issue not to dwell on, but to achieve modular construction the best way possible, you obviously need to make sure your building is designed for right from the beginning in a way that can be built in modular construction methodology. And this has given it a big challenge, especially for the supply chain. And that's one of the main issues that we have. So now that we've got a lot of demand coming in from developers, a lot of demand brought in from or pushed in from the consultants and the main contractors, we do see a lot of growth in the market for the modular construction. Now, one country is different from another. I'm talking from UAE here. From my experience in countries like Saudi Arabia, although there's a lot of push to modular construction, we do have a shortage in the supply for that. And perhaps we could utilize the fact that there is a lot of precast factories out there in Saudi Arabia, and it might be time to really utilize these precast factories and upgrade them, if I should say, to modular construction processes and methods as well.
We've got another collaboration question that's come in. Are PPP projects successful in terms of commercial aspects?
It all depends on how the PPP contract has been set up, but that's one of the things that was actually touched on quite a lot. There was a whole panel about the PPP and how PPP should be set up, and there was one comment that was mentioned by one of the esteemed panel members that it's almost construction is or a project is almost like a fish tank, and we have to work together on this. So when you if you're a different fish in the tank and you have a PPP contract to sign and to deal with, it has to be approached in a win-win-win situation. And if we do that, then it is profitable. If we don't, then we will find one part of the PPP or one party of the PPP agreements suffering, whether it's financial, whether it's time constraints or quality, will go out of the window because certain requirements are there. Now, when it comes to PPP, there's a lot of great examples out there, hence why it's very popular. It is proven to be very profitable. But again, it's proven to be very profitable because of the agreements that was in place at early stages.
Well, we move on now to our final question that's come in. Our final one. Now, we're losing 30% in inefficient communication in construction projects. And as we shift to modular and lean project management, do you agree that this is a positive move?
Yes, short answer is yes. Moving to modular, is the question asking, is moving to modular construction a positive move?
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. But it has to be approached, as I mentioned briefly in the previous question, that we definitely have to approach it in the right way. It is the right move. It's proven to be. I mean, if just on paper, there's a lot of results that are showing, there's a lot of tangibles that are showing from going to modular construction. However, when it comes to reality, when it comes to practicality, we need to change the way we do things. A lot of processes, methodologies need to be changed. The designs need to be changed. The mindset towards approaching a project need to be changed. The way we manage the whole construction sites is different from traditional to modular construction. The fact that we have to rely on the manufacturing and the suppliers a lot more than we did. Utilizing different things such as just-in-time delivery, just-in-time production, just-in-time construction, and change the mindset, as I mentioned, and I keep saying, in the construction sites, not only construction site but also during the design as well, that this is a modular construction project. The design has to be done in a certain way. The planning of and the site planning and the planning of the whole project and the program itself need to be approached differently. We need to make sure that we have the right suppliers in place, and we need to make sure that we do work
very closely with our supply chain to make sure that we can achieve modular construction the best way possible.
Dr. Anas Bazow, thank you so much. They're all our audience questions so far. It's been a great pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to deliver such insightful findings. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure is all mine. Thanks. Thanks to the audience as well.
Thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our next session is in fact at 12:10. So please do join us then for a global economic outlook and its impact on construction. That'll be starting at 12:10. Thank you so much.